We are approaching the end of the growing season over here in Sydney. I don't even want to say it, but I think we probably have another 2 good months ahead of us before we start going into autumn and winter. And naturally, my plants have very much enjoyed the growing season. I've seen amazing growth inside of my house as well as in my garden and my greenhouse. And today I just want to give you an updated houseplant tour, show you all of the amazing growth, also show you what I've changed. I've rearranged a little bit, you know, as the seasons change, so does the light exposure, plants grow, plants get chopped and so on. So naturally I rearranged quite a lot anyway, so I thought it would be good to give you a little bit of an updated tour now that everything is thriving. But it looks a little overcast out there and a little bit of rain is forecasted as well. So I thought, why don't we start with the garden before it starts raining on us? Let's go! Welcome to my garden. Let me give you a quick overview first and then we're going to look at a few more plants in detail. So today's a good day to film because it's nice and overcast. However, we've actually had really hot days over the last couple of months. Specifically, December was really hot and really sunny. It didn't rain much in December at all. So I was almost out here watering daily. Then January came with a lot of storms and a lot of rain, flooding and so on. So obviously then I reduced my manual watering. But the storms, specifically the really high winds, we've had 40-degree hot days that burned a few plants, and then we also had hailstorms. So there's a little bit of damage in the garden, but I've also done a video where I kind of cut back all of the ugly leaves already. So this is already the cleaned up version. But apart from that, I would say it was a really good summer actually. We've also consistently had really high humidity. You know, some years we have really dry summers, but the recent, 4 or 5 summers or so, we're all really humid. So the plants out here are enjoying it. However, some of them came back a little bit later than expected, right? Most of these plants that you see out here stay outdoors all year long, and if you have watched my channel before, I do houseplant tours pretty much once a season. So there's a winter, there's a spring, there's an autumn version and so on of these houseplant tours as well. So and I have a playlist which I'll link at the end screen as well, so you can kind of see the garden change throughout the year as well. Obviously this is usually the time where it looks the lushest. Duh. Anyway, let's have a look at some plants. Enough talk. Come on, let's show something. Alrighty, let me give you a quick pan. There's the tiger at the bottom as well. So we've got a few distinct sections in my garden. This is my wall of aeroids. This is west facing. Then we've got this seating area, which is north facing, which is the best exposure in the southern hemisphere. But this grey thing is not the sky, that's actually my neighbor's house. So I don't actually get that much sun coming through. And then this side is east facing, so sunrise comes through from behind the greenhouse, but because I've got 2 big trees here and 1 big tree here, in general the garden is pretty protected, which is a good thing because the summer sun in Australia is crazy. Oop, and we just got the misters going on in the greenhouse. So let's maybe not start with the greenhouse, let's start the other end then, so we're not getting all too wet. Let me show you. The African milk tree, I didn't plant this, this was already here. What I did, however, is I chopped it back last year and you can see it now has beautiful new growth. It was actually reaching the ceiling, it was just getting all messed up. So I wanted to do something about it. Should probably also do something about the spider webs. Similar with this jade tree, it was already here. I didn't buy it. It came with the place, but it looked really neglected, so I repotted it, gave it a really strong chop back. You can see a lot of these chops, and then I reckon pretty much 80% of the leaves that you see were all grown since then. I just had to give it a sunnier spot. Really enjoying this. Golden cane palm over here. Don't have all too much to say about it. It is definitely a bit of a filler, but it's not a bad thing, right? Where did the baby go? Hey. Bradley, we don't go into the naughty corner. Hello darling, we don't go into the naughty corner. This, by the way, is the naughty corner. This is where I have like some materials, and this is the corner of death. case you're wondering. Come on, Bradley, you're way too cute to be in the corner of death. Come on. Alrighty, then next to it I've got my Cebu Blue. Now that had a massive chop back recently, and there's a video coming on that. Yes, it loses the blue part, but these are new leaves. It actually gains these beautiful fenestrations instead. Would be nice to have both, but you know, there's basically 2 shoots on here now that are going to raise up the pole, and I'm switching from moss to an aeroid mix in the pole. But yeah, as I said, there's going to be a full video coming on this. Next to that, one of my favorites at the moment, the Deliciosa Brazil form. I think it is so nice. New leaf coming here, definitely maturing as we're going into summer, or as we're finishing summer. And this is on a plank, and you can see how it attached itself there. So yes, you can totally grow something on a plank of wood and it can mature nicely. The problem is going to kick in once it reaches the top. What can I do? I can only rip this off here, which will destroy all of the roots, basically setting back the plant. But I'll make a video about it. Down there we've got a little Adansonia actually. Hello! And then over here we've got the Epipremnum pinnadum variegata. I chopped this back last year in March, and it then did nothing for all of autumn, all of winter, pretty much all of spring. It has now only started growing again recently. Is it? Yeah, this was the first leaf for the season. This is the second, and now there's a third one coming. But it's been really slow in coming back. I don't want to say it because I don't want to accept it, but we are past the peak of summer. We're going into autumn. So hopefully it can grow a little faster. Oh, there's a second shoot down here as well, by the way, with a leaf coming. So hopefully it can grow really fast over the next 2 months, so that I've got some nice leaves before we're going back into dormancy. But they have, all 3 of those have been out here all winter long as well. So they can survive the temperatures, they just don't thrive during winter. Then here's the bottom part of my El Salvador. The top part is inside. Oops, something has eaten this leaf. But overall, I think it's growing really nice. The goal is for these 2 poles at the bottom to both send shoots onto the middle one to then have a really lush pole. But it's looking really good. This is the first year for it outside, so see how we go. It probably needs to move over a bit, huh? It's a bit in the wrong spot. There we go. Next to that, we've got my Syngonium Steiermarkii, also grown amazingly out here. It grew indoors for all of winter, like its whole life, and then at the beginning of spring I thought, let's change something because it's not really thriving to the extent that I wanted to thrive. I put it out here, and pretty much all of these big leaves that you see here were all grown outdoors. I now performed the chop and extend for the first time on this plant, and it's now reshooting. And of course you're going to get a full video on that as well. Next to that, we've got my Dubia. This one over here. I also performed the chop and extend on this recently. Yes, you will get a video on this. You can see, oh no, you can see that the latest growth point has rotten away. Oh well, shit happens, right? Let's wait for the next one then. It is what it is. Quick baby break. Hello, hello, hello. You're so well behaved, yeah? No more corner of death, okay? Next to that, probably the success story of the growing season, but leaving me with a problem. What am I gonna do with this plant once I need to move it back inside? This is Philodendron Sharonii. Out here it is finally getting the light, temperature and humidity that it wants to grow, that it needs to grow. These were the indoor leaves. This was the internodal spacing indoors. And now look at how tiny the internodal spacing is, even in inflow, and this is the newest leaf still unfurling. So it's gonna look absolutely epic, but what am I gonna do once autumn hits? This plant will not like it out here in winter, and it is now really big, and I don't know where to put it inside. So see how we go. But for now, I'm really appreciative of at least seeing this really beautiful growth. Happy days. And so easy out here. I don't do anything for it apart from housing it out. Siltepecana over here, it's a mess. It just keeps trailing up and down. It keeps hitting the fence, and then I cut it off as well. It's just a nice filler, but I really like it out here. I did a video the other day where I said I wouldn't really buy it again as a houseplant. I stand by this, but I think out here, as a filler. I have much more space out here. It's a good one. Ring of Fire down here is also its first season out here. You can see it's growing 3 inflows down there at the moment. Wow, it really 4, no 3 maybe 4. You know what? I know some people disagree with this, but I like to just chop them off. I have no desire in pollinating it, and I don't want the plant to waste. Yeah, it was 4. Any more energy on this? I want leaves. It hasn't grown many leaves recently, but the ones it has grown are quite nice. These ones over here. So definitely quite nice and large, but I want more. Again, another plant I wouldn't really recommend indoors because it spreads so much, but out here I think it's a nice pop of color. I just don't know if it's going to be able to survive winter out here, but we'll find out. And all the other ones over here, also new additions to the outside world over this spring-summer growing season. This is my Adansonia Indonesian marble, and look, I can't even, like, how deformed every single leaf is. I was hoping that putting it outside it might stop the deformation, but I think it's getting worse. Look at this. This is honestly has got to be one of the ugliest plants I've ever seen. So it is definitely going to fight for its survival out here. I mean, it has, technically the variegation in itself is not that bad. If the variegation wouldn't be causing this deformation of the leaves, or if they would at least be like this, I don't know. But this way, it's not nice. It's gonna live out here and anyway, see how we go. But no, definitely not gonna make precious space indoors available for this plant. Next to that, my variegated Monstera deliciosa also had a chop, and then the bottom part got re-extended and made it onto the pole. And this is the new shoot, so it's gonna reshoot pretty thick. Like the thickness of the reshoot is almost as thick as the original stem. So I'm really excited. I wasn't too sure if it's gonna maybe burn a little bit over here, but it handled the light really well actually. And then next to that we've got an Adansonii. That's the bottom part of my big Adansonii that I also then extended, put out here, and you can see these sort of shoots now climbing up the pole. In general, I've done that a couple of times this season, where I performed a chop and extend. I put one of the plants inside, one of them outside, just so I can compare the growth and see what the plant actually appreciates or prefers. And of course there's going to be videos about all of this coming as well. Here's my one and only surviving heliconias. The other ones all rotted over winter. So yeah, this one is the yellow dancer. It is small. It is never going to grow that super large. It's kind of my least favorite one that survived, but I'm grateful that it survived nevertheless. This is a really sunny spot. It has the least coverage from the trees above. So I've had some burnt leaves when it was really hot recently. Oh, and here are my cacti. I'm just going to film them, but I have nothing to say about them, but I don't want to ignore them. Okay, now with my wall of aeroids, I usually just hoist them down. The ones that are on my regular moss poles over here, I sometimes take a water bottle upside down and still just water them with the water bottle upside down technique. That way I can also provide nutrients. But I've recently switched to the grow vertical poles with an aeroid mix in that, because then I can just put nutrients in a watering can and just pour it over there, and it is less messy. Now, moss makes the watering experience clean and mess-free with the water bottle upside down technique, because then it can slowly absorb the water. But out here it dries out really quickly because of the increased airflow and high light exposure. And then dry moss is hydrophobic, so it's having a harder time absorbing water then, right? Whereas this also dries out really quickly, but with the plastic backing and the aeroid mix, I can just kind of hose it down and it just all drains through. Indoors, higher risk of overwatering because it doesn't absorb the water. The water just kind of runs through, but out here, I'm not worried about overwatering anyway. So I figured this is probably a cleaner, easier solution for me to re-water or re-moisten and provide nutrients than the moss poles. At least out here. Anyway, in general, very happy, but you can see I performed a bunch of chop and extends recently, so a lot of them are kind of just above the halfway mark at the moment. So hopefully in the next 2 months that we still have, this is going to increase a little bit. Now the tree above is a golden robinia, and it started really trailing in on the plants, so I used my, what is this, like the lights to kind of stake up the tree to create a nicer canopy, which is saving these plants from getting absolutely burned in the midday sun. Ooh, the wind is coming, which makes me think there's rain coming. Let's hurry up. This is my Alocasia Regal Shields. It has done pretty much nothing last year. I did not repot it this year, but now it is growing. Not amazingly. Tim has some as well. I gave some to Tim. He put it in the garden bed. They absolutely shot the lights out this season, but I'm happy with this. It's space appropriate and producing little pups down there as well. My Licuala elegans, I think, gave me one leaf this season. Whoop whoop, better than none. And there's a new one coming here. My palm, Kentia palm, is looking good, but really its purpose is to give the whole garden a little bit of height and a little bit of privacy. But in itself, I think it's also kind of a filler. Sorry. Over here we've got an philodendron. Whoop. No ID that reached the top of the fence, so it has attached to the fence. It also survived all winter out here, so I'm not going to do anything about it. Just probably when it reaches the top I'll cut it and then replant it. And then this is the bottom part of my Cebu Blue that is going yellow really quickly. That is because I'm doing a terrible job at keeping the moss pile moist. It rained last night, so now everything is moist, but I mean it is going to reshoot over here, but it's just, I don't know what else to do with it. I thought I'll put it here. I should probably cut some of these leaves off, huh? Then here we've got some Syngoniums, some Trio Star, some Regal Shields are planted in here. They're actually surviving, which is great news. And my Bromeliad display over here is also looking good, but it's a slow grower, but I can definitely see growth on here. Look, even a little seed has made it into the Bromeliad. Don't you dare taking over. The Lynette over there in the corner is not receiving enough light, I think, but it is just kind of perfect for the corner, so I'm leaving it there. Bye. And over here we've got a wild garden bed, Colocasia esculenta, some crawlers. Look at this. I think this is Dean McDowell. Coming through here, a pasta down here, the Rhaphidophora, the Cursiva. I kind of just let this garden bed grow wild a little bit. These are a lot of the plants that I just never had great success with indoors. Over here we've got my Frog in a Blender, Caladium. It actually had a rotten bulb and I just cut the rot off and it survived. Happy days. Oh my god, I can feel the rain coming. We gotta hurry up, sorry. This is my big Thermatophyllum bipinnatifidum. I mean, I don't have much to say about this plant apart from that it's ginormous, an easy grower and tolerates full light. Also stays out here all year long and loving it. And my huge esculenta, you can still see a little bit of hail damage over there, but it grows new leaves super quickly and it spreads to both sides. I mean, you can see there's one there as well with the bird poop on it, and you'll see some later on in that garden bed down there as well. Big bird of paradise over here. Look at this newest leaf. That was a rescue plant I got maybe a year and a half ago. It could grow much larger, but it's in a pot, so I'm stunting its growth, but I think this is the largest I can really handle in my garden. Canna Cleopatra, never gonna show the red again, but it had nice flowers this year, but we're already past the flowering stage for this one. And then over here we've got my banana that is living its best life these days, growing the biggest leaves it ever had, growing really nicely, no pest issues out here, but it got beaten around in the storm a little bit, as you can see. So we are finally improving. I had a full video on this plant and how it was a bit of a fail, but it's coming back now. Next to that is my current fail. I don't know what to do to this plant anymore. It deteriorates quicker than it regrows. The variegation is beautiful, but it lasts about a minute and a half. I've had rust issues. I've had a few stems that were, here you can see the rust issues. I've had a few stems that were beaten around by the wind that I had to cut off. Hail damage on this one as well. Like, I don't know, it just seems such a vulnerable plant. I don't know, if anybody has a suggestion on how to prevent the plant from burning, that would be great, but at the same time I know it wants a lot of light. Also, it's so large, I can't really protect it from getting light anymore, but yeah, I struggled with it this year, more than any season before. And here is my red arrow syngonium. It had crazy aphids. So you can see here the initial leaves were all aphids, and now the leaves are coming back more or less deformed, let's say. Teeny tiny little cactus section over here, and then here is like my section for under the umbrella. I keep them fairly short. One of my favorites at the moment, the Fat Boy, Marcianum, just loving it. This section gets a lot of sun. Here is one of my natives. I actually need to put it back up on my balcony, but it had a bloom recently, so I put it down so I can actually appreciate it. And a whopping one leaf from my Bismarck palm this year. But it's good. Honestly, if it would grow any faster, I wouldn't know where to put it. And my Syngonium Mojito is looking absolutely amazing over here. That has been a standout this season for sure. Okay. Quick pan through the garden again. Sorry if I'm skipping over a few plants because I'm worried we're going to get rained on. Oh, and a small Thomatophyllum Xanadu over here as well. I just love, it's like a little explosion of fireworks. Works really well in the middle of the garden over here. Oh, let's quickly go into this corner. Super mozzie infested, but I'll do it just for you. Here is Maranta, looking good. That's what I mean by sending out runners everywhere. Hello, go back in here. Oh no, look at this. I had the bottom part of the Syngonium Styramarchia here and the wind just... Oh, it wasn't the wind. It was this ginormous branch that crashed on it. Are you for real? Oh my god, poor thing. I'll sort it out later. Oops. Anyway, this was the bottom part of the Syngonium Styramarchia. I want this to find the fence. Another philodendron no ID that found the fence here, and my Rhaphidophora cursiva also found the fence, growing some nice leaves, huh? But it's already way outgrown it. Well, the neighbors will be thankful. Talking about the neighbors, one of the runners of my Esculent has also made it into the neighbor's garden. My Deliciosa has also found the fence over here, even showing a little bit of variegation again, but in general it has lost most of its variegation. That's why it's out here. And then my little Alocasia garden, really disappointing compared to Tim's Alocasia garden that was thriving this year, but we've got yet again a runner of the Esculenta coming out here. We've got a Limezinger, a Cupria, just a normal green one, a green velvet over here actually, a Sarian over here, that's the Mickey Mouse one, and a Regal Shields. So a lot of variety, but they're just not doing much this year. They should get plenty of light because we have less coverage over here. There is irrigation here, drip irrigation, so it should be consistently moist as well. I don't know why it's not thriving this year, but look, it is what it is. Alrighty, let's get out of this corner. Look at this poor baby. Hello. Oh well, I see it already had a reshoot. I can just pop this in water and propagate it. Oh well. Where the hell did this come from? Oh my god, it's from this big tree there. Oh, that's not good news. Not good at all. Alrighty, finally time for the greenhouse, isn't it? Now it has been, oh my god, I think a year and a half of having a greenhouse now. Alrighty, let's have a look. And I've done a few videos on the plants in the greenhouse recently, so I'll be quick. My Syngonium Frosted Heart, and yes, you can see lots of spider webs. I keep them. Spiders can be nice. I'll get rid of them like once a year, twice a year, so just so it doesn't go out of hand. But it's a filler, you know, it's okay there. Then one of my favorites at the moment, this is my Ametrium Medium Silver. Look at this newest leaf, so pretty. Also leafed out here all year long. There's a second, third and fourth shoot over here. Happy days. Nah, sorry, the fourth shoot is here. Next to that is we've got my Carcinianum. Grow out here all year long as well. Add some nice leaves with the verrucosum parentage quite visible in the back with the red. But then recently, this was the most recent leaf, and look at this. It looks like it has some sort of variegation or some sort of virus, but it made the leaf super deformed. So I'm curious to see what the next leaf is going to look like. Over here, my Philodendron rugosum pigskin, also growing a new leaf. Not doing anything impressive, but it exists. Oh, and I skipped one. Here is a little trailing Siltepecana. Because I already have one climbing, right? Here is the El Choco, the chop, the bottom part of my chop, the mature one we see inside later. The juvenile form is red, or more red, keeps the red, so I want to grow a juvenile form in here and make it lush. So it's looking good. Here's an Adansonii, actually maturing decently out here. Look at this, these are decent leaves. Oh, there's one more here. Just a filler. And a majestic out here. I've been bitching and moaning about majestics. This one has done so little in this greenhouse, but it is alive. On to more good news. This is my Alocasia gagaena, looking so good. Had a bit of damage over here when it was really hot and wet at the same time. But this is the newest leaf, and you can slowly start seeing the yellow variegation coming in. So I love that effect when it matures or when it unfurls. Also lots of pups at the bottom, happy days. Behind that, the bottom part of my Sodiroy, also looking good. I do want to try and keep my Sodiroy more juvenile, hence a lower spot and giving it less light. This is Global Green Pothos, not really doing that much. Again, a filler in the corner. And then we've got some variegated Monsteras here. I definitely need to get rid of some of these over the course of winter. I have too many. Got one there, got one here as well. And I've got another one here with beautiful variegation. That's on top of the one that you saw on the wall of Aerois and the one that you'll see inside. This is my variegated Syngonium. It reached the top of its moss pole, so I had to chop it. And now it's reshooting, but it's reshooting quickly, so I need to do something about this one day. And this one is my Monstera subpennata. I finally gave it an extension. I was a bit late to it, but I've been seeing really nice growth. Look at this leaf. So I'm really happy about this one. Also survived out here all year long, so it's gonna stay. I think, I'm not too sure exactly which plants I'm gonna take inside over winter and which ones will stay here. I think this one I will definitely take inside. But I think everything else will probably stay. But once I put things inside for winter, I'll film it as well. I'll take you along in my reasoning behind it, and most likely it's going to be trial and error. Look at this carnivorous plant though. It has absolutely shot the lights out this season. So many pictures everywhere. Definitely has become one of my favorites, and all the pictures you see here have all grown this season. So that's cool. And they have different kinds of pitches as well. You can see you have these ones and they have these ones. I don't know what the difference is. Honestly, I could probably Google, but I don't know. It's just, I'm sure somebody in the comments can let me know. Here we've got my Forgetii Magnificum hybrid. It's looking good out here. It's doing this again. I don't like when it does this thing. It should be this way. I don't know if that's maybe because I underwatered or if something went wrong in development stage, or if that's normal. Hopefully it corrects itself. Never know this plant's name, but it was inside for the longest time, but it never did anything. It only started growing once I put it in the greenhouse. So that will stay here, I think. Yeah, I think. And then my Monstera Peru is recovering from being burned a little bit, growing nice leaves again. Another Cupria in the back over here, because why would you only have one or two if you can have three? But it's looking good. You can really see that the juvenile leaves are much more coppery. We see a more mature specimen indoors later. Here's one of my little Bellicosums that I did a full video about recently. Oh my god, another Monstera. Go away. And then Jerry Horn over here, definitely not giving it enough light and or support for that to ever do something, but one day. And here's my little rescue section. They were all just some leftover corms of Alocasias, and they kind of all grew one leaf. So I think this one is an Obliqua actually, and this one is a Florida Beauty. But they were all just empty pots at the beginning of summer. But that's not really the recovery story that I need to give me confidence that they'll survive the next winter. And same about the black velvet, but it actually produced 2 leaves at least, yay. But look how many new shoots there are in the pot. I hope some of them actually eventuate rather than just doing nothing again. And what do we have here? I think this is a crazy rubbish. It's got to be a crazy rubbish, surely. I think, yep. And this is also a crazy rubbish. Looking good. So the crazy rubbish is a crystallinum hybrid I made myself, crossing it with itself. Such a beautiful leaf. Loving it. And a lemon lime maranta, because they are actually so cute. Don't like them indoors, but I think in a greenhouse they look absolutely amazing. Here are some magnificum hybrids. They lived indoors but weren't doing anything, so I popped them out here, hoping they might do a little more. And this one is a Autumn Queen, also orange marmalade if you're from the States. What's happening with this newest leaf? Come on. Has done incredibly little over the course of a year. Maiden Heffern, actually surprised that it survived the really hot weather out here. Begonia, I never remember its name, but it's looking kind of cute. Definitely more of a filler under the bench, you know. And then here we're going into the rescue section territory. This is my Pinati Patita. I'm doing a full video on this as well, but it very much suffered over here over winter, and it's now really slowly recovering. But we are, I don't know, like if this is the recovery since spring, we're closer to going back to winter than we are away from spring. So I'm not super confident that this is really going to recover before it's going to deteriorate again. So yeah, probably need to take it inside this season. Then here, what's happening here? Is this an up that doesn't belong to you? That belongs to this one. I'll let it do its own thing. 10 years doing absolutely nothing, so it gets a no-D spot. And this one is the bottom part of my dubia. You can see shoot, a shoot here, a shoot here, a couple of shoots here as well. So I chopped it in a bunch of spots and I'm waiting for regrowth. And the bottom part of my Milano. You can see a few new leaves down there, but that only made it here last week or so. And then we've got my pagoda lipstick plant. I should have really repotted her this year. I think I didn't see amazing growth because I just kept it in the pot, but I don't think I can really handle more growth, right? Like the greenhouse is quite small. Here is my Hoya. Guys, it's still here. It's doing nothing. I'm tolerating it, let's put it that way. And I think that's it. I think I covered all of the plants in there. I'm sure I missed one. But you know, when you spend so much time with your plants, I don't know, they all blend into one at some stage. But overall, very happy with the greenhouse this season. Yeah, can't complain. So yeah, with the greenhouse, I think the biggest challenge over spring and summer is the overheating, and then in winter it is being too cold. You saw the metal fan in the corner over there that's hooked up to a battery. The battery is hooked up to a solar panel on the top of the roof. I've got a full video on that in my greenhouse playlist as well. Now I've had a few issues with the battery. I had to send it in twice already to get it fixed. They do send it back every time and it's fixed, but look, not 1000% happy with it, right? The problem is I have a lot of tree coverage, so I don't actually have that much sun to charge the solar panel properly, and I don't have power outlets over here. People suggested just feeding a cable through the window, but how can I feed it through the window? Then there's no gap, you know, so I would have to keep the window open for the rest of my life, which isn't really an option because then Brad can also just push the door open and leave at any time. Talking about Brad, where is he? I can't provide it with a stable power supply, so that sort of battery or generator is the best idea. Look, it works for the fan, you know, I need the fan because to cool down the greenhouse I'm misting every 2 hours for like I think a minute and a half or so, but obviously I also apply judgment, right? If it's going to be a really rainy week, then I turn it off. If it's going to be a really hot week, then I maybe do some manual misting on top of that, and on top of that obviously watering as well. In winter I turn all of that off. In winter I don't have any misting, so then the consistent airflow is also not so important, which is good because we get less sun in winter as well, so less charge for the battery. I can charge it manually as well, but it seems like a lot of work. So overall, I think temperature is the biggest issue in there. Light is not the issue because it has natural coverage. Yes, there's a bit of afternoon sun coming from basically where you are, shining into it, but that's why I've got these big plants in front of it to shade it a little bit so it doesn't go up to like 50 degrees in there. It's usually just like maybe 2 degrees warmer in there than it is outside, but the humidity is consistently at like 90% or so. So the plants are having a good time in there for sure, but I'm really just using water and airflow to regulate all the conditions like humidity and temperature, and it's not a super smart setup. It's definitely me applying common sense and me acting on it as well, right? There's some level of automation, but the automation isn't smart, right? The automation doesn't look at, oh, today it's 40 degrees, let's bump up the misting, or today it's 20 degrees and we had crazy rains, let's stop the misting. It's not that smart, unfortunately. But look, that's okay. It's also my hobby. I want to have some level of involvement. Very happy I've got this sort of environment like the greenhouse, but in winter it is more of a challenge because I can't heat the greenhouse, and the plants I've chosen for the greenhouse are a little bit more finicky usually. So I think there's definitely a few more plants from the greenhouse that need to go inside over the next maybe in 3 months time or so. This year I want to be a little bit more prepared. Last year I really left it until I saw visual damage on some of my plants to take them inside. Often once you see visual damage it's already too late. So this year I think I'm going to be a little bit more proactive and learn from last year's mistakes. That's why I make them, right? I think that's all I have to say about the garden. We talk about the garden all the time anyway. Biggest challenge in the garden is definitely continuous provision of nutrients because I'm lazy. I do have some slow release fertilizer, but I prefer my liquid nutrients, so I think that's definitely something I need to improve on. And the other challenge I think is just that, well, you're exposed to conditions, you're exposed to nature out here, right? You can't control the wind, you can't control things like hail, you can't control things like temperatures that burn plants and so on. So it can be a much faster growing journey out here and can be super rewarding and super easy, right? But at the same time you're also less in control. But again, it's also somewhat fun, right? Keeps me on my toes, and also just shows again that it's more about the journey, right? You can grow the most beautiful leaf and tomorrow there can be hailstorms, absolutely turning that leaf into like, you know, a piece of cheese with lots and lots of holes in it. And you can't control it and you can't do anything about it. So at the end of the day, just enjoy the journey, enjoy the leaf for what it is right now. Even if the hailstorm doesn't come, it will have a limited time span. Alright, that bird has no chill. I think we successfully avoided the rain. So let's head inside. I mean, inside the growth probably isn't as impressive as it is outside, but it's more consistent and the plants aren't exposed to crazy winds or hailstorms, so I'm having a better chance at keeping plants looking nice. So there's still a lot of really good updates I want to show you. So let's go. Mr. Bradley, I think it will be raining soon. Do you want to come inside with me? Let me also quickly put the covers on because the way it rains in Sydney, it rains like crazy for like 30 minutes. Everything is drenched and then in 30 minutes time it will be sunny again. Guys, it is midday. Look how dark it is. Oof. Sorry, my baby. I know you do not want to go back inside. Look at this baby, huh? King of the jungle, are you? Look, they're out there. Look, look, look. Oh my God, super cute. While we're here and I'm looking at this tree, that reminded me, yesterday I came out and heard something and there was a possum sitting right here. It was so tiny, but super cute. Okay, Bradley, the idea was that we go inside actually. Come on. No, inside is the other way. This way. Come on. Good boy. A little pan through the living area, so up the stairs is to the bedrooms, kitchen in the back, dining. Then we've got the lounge over here. And this is the north-facing window going out into the garden. So I think with my living room, I don't actually have that many plants in my living room for a couple of reasons. First of all, it is the hardest one to somewhat control the climate in because it is the largest, it has the most windows, but also it is by far the place where we spend most time. We spend a lot of time in the living area, and I have a housemate, and that's where we socialize. We only go upstairs for sleeping purposes, really. So in here, it is most important that this place suits us as humans. So we obviously use air conditioning. Like today, for example, I have the aircon on. Actually, I don't have it on a cool cycle. I have it on a drying cycle, because without it, it would be like 80% humidity in here, which is just a bit uncomfortable for us humans. Explains why the plants are loving life, but for us, we obviously want to make it comfortable for us. So we use the air conditioning heavily, we use the heating heavily during the cooler months and so on. So we're really making sure that this room works for us as humans. Most of our houseplants seem to enjoy similar conditions as well, but not all of them. So you won't find my velvet philos in this room, for example. I keep them in my office, that I'm obviously also controlling for my sake, but I'm more lenient with, to ensure that it first and foremost works for the plants. The other thing is I have a north-facing window over here, which over autumn, winter, beginning of spring gets decent light coming through, right? So keep in mind I'm in the southern hemisphere, so the sun moves from east to west, but in winter the sun kind of moves this way, so just scraping the top of my neighbor's house so that enough sun is coming deep into the room to kind of go like halfway to where my couch is, right? The direct sun. Obviously less direct sun hours, but more direct sun. In summer, the sun basically goes straight over my courtyard, so there's no direct sun coming into the room. There's also my housemate's balcony right above there, so that's also further blocking any sun from coming in. So I actually get very little light through my north-facing window over the season that we've just had. So I've actually experienced the worst growth in my north-facing window, whereas over autumn and winter, it is one of the best windows for me to utilize. So I do constantly rotate. Anyway, so much backstory, huh? This is my Plummonii, and I've also kind of complained about the Plummonii recently because I'm having a hard time making it look good, because when it matures, it's just too crazy. So I've decided to chop it back fundamentally and give it a small pot and keep it in that small pot. If this outgrows this pot, I'm going to chop off the plant and I'm going to chop off some roots and make it fit into this pot again. So the goal is really to consistently have a nice display of this plant in this pot. That's why I've got 3 cuttings in here, but all of that only happened 2 weeks ago. So we need to wait for it to grow into itself. But I'm giving it a shitty spot, let's say, because I don't want it to mature too fast. Over here I've got my variegated Adansonii. Also, probably not the best idea to give it that spot. It would appreciate more light. That's why it's not really maturing that well. But I just wanted consistency for this plant, and I've had it here in spring and I really liked it, and then I figured, you know what, I'm just not moving it. Also, it's kind of small, so it kind of works there, you know. So I'm just keeping there. I'm not in a rush to mature this. I don't need to be the one that grows this plant the fastest. I just wanted to actually mature without going full green or full white. So I'm not fixing anything at the moment because it's not broken. It is the best attempt at growing a variegated Adansonii for me. And I've tried, I think this is the 4th time, yeah. Not all too much to say about this plant because I've also done a full video on this very recently. This is a Bellicoisum, which is a hybrid of Biliatii and Verrucosum. I think I should probably move this into a different area of the house as well. I think it will probably go onto my wall of aeroids that we see later on in my office, but I need to do some rearranging soon. And then in the back, I'll just zoom in. So this is my El Salvador. This is the indoor version. You saw the outdoor one earlier out there. I also done a full video on this plant recently, so I'm not going to show you up close. If you just look through my recent videos, you'll find one where I actually chopped this plant. I put one outside, one inside. I waited 2 months to see what's happening, and then I analyzed the results. So feel free to check that one out. Alright, let's turn around. Let's have a look at what's on the other side of my north-facing window. This is the side that has my housemate's balcony above as well, so even less direct sun, or actually pretty much no direct sun in the winter months, maybe a little bit like here, but very, very limited. Hence the decision to supplement with the grow light. I love these lights from Mother, the Life Spectrums. They also dim down at nighttime, so when we're on the couch, it slowly dims down, mimicking like a sunset. So it's not just like super harsh on and off. And I think that makes it a good choice for a grow light in a room that you use very frequently. So yes, it looks after the plant during the day and gives it nice light, but then at nighttime it also turns into like a design element for us, let's say, or like something that is nice for us humans. They're linked in the description, and I've got a full review on this as well, which I think is also linked in the description. Anyway, it supports pretty much just 2 plants. Third one down here, I'll show you in a sec. But mainly supports my big Adansonii. It looks not that big when I have it pushed into the corner, but when I take it out of the corner and I actually stand next to it rather than in front of it, you'll see how much bigger it looks. I have you guys on wide angle because my house is not actually as big as it might seem on camera. It's just everything filmed in wide angle. That's probably why when I stand here, I suddenly have huge arms as well. Look at that. Next to that is my Mandula pothos. We've had a really lengthy, exhausting recovery actually. I mean, you see these smaller leaves over here. That's where it was winter growth. It came off the pole. It, again, really slow recovery. I would have wanted a slightly faster recovery to ensure we've got a little bit more growth to show for before we are going into the season that's kind of getting worse again. I feel like this light is very bright. I hope editing Jan can adjust that a little bit. But yeah, clearly the plants are loving it. I mean, if you've seen I've done a full video on the Adansonii as well. I suppose it's my job to do videos on my plants, right? If you've seen that video, you would have seen the plant is purely relying on the grow light, and it's actually thriving. It even flowered this year as well. So I'm really hoping that it can mature a little bit further over the next 2 months, because it's somewhat maintained its similar size, but I think the inflow growth was also stunting it. So I think we're over the inflow cycle now, and hopefully we can see some really nice big leaves. They're already big, but anyway. Down here I've got a Florida Ghost, and this is a good example of, oh no, I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's have a look. Can I move this out of frame? Didn't move it that far out of frame, did I? Can I just turn it off maybe? There we go. Oh my god, look how dark it is. I do have a light on here for filming to counteract the harsh grow light, but I don't know if that's really working. Anyway, let's talk about the Florida Ghost. That Florida Ghost was also in that north-facing window that I showed you earlier on that little table next to my variegated Adansonia. And it was actually, oh my god, this plant is so filthy. I need to wash. Look at this. I really need to take this out for a little wash. Oh well, if it's raining, I'll just put it out now. Anyway, that is disgusting. How did I let it get that far? Anyway, okay, so you can see over here it started going nice and minty. That was actually spring growth. And then summer growth was not that minty at all, pretty much green. So it was going green as we're going into the growing season, which just again shows how the north-facing window doesn't actually have that much direct sun even during the warmer seasons. So I now moved it here, and that newest leaf seems to be getting a little more yellow. Eventually will fade to white. So with Florida Ghost, the way that it works is the variegation is light induced. So if you provide it with bright light, it's going to be white. If you provide it with dark conditions, it's going to be green. If you have something in between, it's going to be minty, right? So hence moving it down here. Also the bottom part of the Mandula is a little bit empty. I don't know if you can see that. So this kind of fills in that gap nicely. But let me put it outside straight away. I think it's going to start raining soon, and this one really needs a shower. It is crazy how dark it is in this room without this light on. I'm so used to having this light on. It feels so different in here. Actually, the whole place looks really dark now. Definitely getting the storm clouds coming in. Alrighty, welcome to my dining area. Another very challenging place to film in, because we've got an east-facing window right behind me, so we get beautiful sunrise in the morning when I wake up, and we've had let's say I've had a bit of a sleep in, and I wake up and the sun has already been shining for a few hours. I walk down here and it's so hot. because the sun was beaming through that window. I've got a Deliciosa over there, and the Deliciosa actually got burnt through the window by the morning sun. So harsh light. But I don't have that many windows, and it is a good window for the plants to rely on even during winter as well, with sunrise always coming through. Now again, I can't really come in and film the plants because I would need to be on the outside to film the plants, because obviously the plants are all positioned to face the light. That's how they grow. And yeah, so I need to start taking them out a little bit for you. This is my crazy rubbish. So you saw a few of the bigger crazy rubbish. Those are the ones that are separated out. This is just a lush pot of crazy rubbish. I keep it small and I separate out all the big ones so that it can stay on my dining table. Got a full video on how I did that. I pollinated, germinated, and then grew these all over the course of a few years. A plant that has very much appreciated the harsh morning sun is my Oxalis. I've got two. This is a little offshoot. This is the mother plant. Both absolutely thriving. I'm gonna do a video on these actually in due course, because for majority of my audience in the northern hemisphere, you guys will eventually experience spring, and that's the best time to give this plant a nice little repot. Alrighty, so in this corner I've got a Soltec light, and I've DIY'd this little stand over here. But you can also see that this is where the air conditioning / heater is. So underneath is kind of fine because they don't get the direct draft, but I can't choose plants that are too tall over here. Hence the decision to have this light here, because the light comes from above and shines down. So naturally you get more light here, right? If I had a light shining from the front, then obviously I would like to use all of it. But I'm trying to avoid plants that go any higher than this, so that they're not in the direct air, right? And then obviously where you are right now, I also can't have too many plants because, well, you're actually in a really dark corner of the room, but also you would get constant draft from the aircon and then from the heating, which is just too dry, too hot and too cold. Like, the plants would just not appreciate it. Anyway, what have I got here? This is my, oopsie, this is my this is my Esmeraldens. I think this is the newest leaf. It's actually quite nice, but it is a slow grower, right? Yeah, I do like this leaf a lot actually, but I'm having a hard time with this big patio. With these big patios, it's kind of hard to maintain the plant nicely using some twine. It's good that it climbs really slowly, so it doesn't reach the top of the moss pole that quickly, so I can actually keep it in that spot for quite a long time without worrying about the plant growing too tall for the aircon. Down here I've got a little Scindapsus pictus tricolor in bloom. Look at that, how cute. The bottom part of that big mandula that you saw earlier, I kept it and I just let it reshoot, but I'm not letting it climb. I'm kind of trailing the growth point back down the pole to create a lush pot instead of creating another large mature specimen. So there's like 4 or 5 growth points on this at any given time. There's some in the pot as well. I obviously want them to meet and just create one nice lush pole. Yeah, that's the goal. Let's start off with the easiest one. This is my Alocasia cuprea. You can see that it is not so cuprea compared to the more juvenile plant that you saw outside. The backs are still very burgundy, purple, red, I don't know, whatever you want to describe it. It's an absolute trooper. I have to do a full video on this plant really soon again, because it's just grown so well for me over the last 5 years. And I've never propagated it, but you can see how this is the main shoot. The main shoot actually has now reshot here as well, so the main shoot actually has 2 plants in it. See how it's just been trailing. Actually, there's another shoot on the main shoot, so 3 shoots on the main shoot now. And then there's a secondary plant here, and third one here, and a 4th one here. Wow, oh my god, it's a mess. We need to do something about this plant, but it has been thriving. It's loving its life. So at the moment I'm not fixing what's not broken. I think I could water it a little bit. But yeah, it lives under this grow light. It is a Soltec light bulb in an IKEA lamp. and it loves the highlight that it gets. It loves the VIP treatment that it gets. Let me keep this on the side so I can take the next plant out. This is my variegated Deliciosa, the mother plant. You saw the bottom part of this pole cut up outside. Can you see how this plant got burned? Here, I think one of these leaves at the front is also kind of just, yeah, here. Look at this. This is too much light exposure. Now what happened over here is that this plant has always grown in this corner, but as it grows up and reaches the top of the moss pole, it gets exposure to less light. The sun is beaming from the top down into this window, right? So the bottom part down here gets much more light exposure than the top closer to the ceiling. So after I chopped it and I took the top and I potted it back up and we extended it, that top that's used to less light is now sitting in the really harsh morning sun, and that's when it got burned. It got burned pretty much instantly after I chopped it and put it there. So I'm hoping that these newer leaves are now building resilience because they're growing up in this environment, but obviously the light exposure is already reducing with every day as well. So it was probably just unfortunate timing, is what it is, right? Can't have everything, can we? This is my, can you see me here? This is my Thai constellation. It looks like a crazy mess. That is because it used to be a crawler and it used to grow this way. I now put it on a grow vertical pole, and as part of that I flipped it around by 180 degrees. So these leaves used to all face this way. They're now slowly starting their journey to face this way, right? I am probably in a position to soon manage these petioles and give them a little help in finding their right spot, but I didn't want to force anything. I wanted the plant to do it by itself. This is the first leaf that has grown in this position, and this is how I want all of future leaves to be positioned, right? Left and right of the pole. Of course I'm doing a full video on this. Let's have a look at the other side. Another side of the room and another tricky grow light situation. I have a Sunbulb over here. It's an Australian company, also linked in the description, and this is my Discoria discala. I have spoken about her quite a lot over the last few months as well, because, well, this is the season for it, right? I endorse dormancy, usually maybe in like May or so. I'll induce dormancy, cut it all back, because by then it will slowly start deteriorating, bleaching out a little bit. I'll then store it over winter by doing absolutely nothing, and then in summer I repot it and give it a new spot, and then it starts climbing up whatever I will give it. This year I gave it my staircase to climb up on, and I'm really enjoying this. However, I actually wanted it to grow everywhere, but there's not enough light on either side of the grow light to facilitate growth there. So you can really see how the plant hovers around where the light hits it, right? But yeah, still can't complain. Next year I might just need 3 more grow lights. And then over here is my Scindapsus pictus. It is used to this darkish corner, but it gets that morning sun coming through. So it does actually get a little bit of direct morning sun, but in general, a great plant for a darker corner of your house. I also do nothing for this. I think I have not repotted it in 3 years. I just take the plants and I trail them back up here, you know. So it looks like a crazy mess in here, but it makes it look nice and lush and keeps it somewhat compact. Really, really enjoy this plant, and it's like the lowest effort you could possibly think of, honestly. Alrighty, and that is it for the dining section. We're almost done with the living room, which I'm glad about. I think the lighting situation in the living room is the worst. It's not bad in person, it's just bad when filming, right? Trust me, in real life it looks much nicer, but it is actually a really, really dark room, specifically over summer. So if it wasn't for the grow lights in this room, I would not experience any growth, to be honest. I think only the 2 monsteras and the oxalis would be growing. Anyway, let's move on. One more little corner before we go into the nice room. This is one of the darkest corners of my house, for sure. This is kind of like the entry. But I've got my mother forest over here. Also a link and review in the description. It is not the most cost-effective product, but I really, really enjoy it. And I specifically enjoy it for my trailing plants and my propagations. Actually, 1, 2, 3... No, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them are just filled with water. Whee! And they're just my water propagation. So whenever I walk around and I just chop something off, I just chuck it in there and then eventually I pot them up. The other one, like these Rhopsalis, for example, is chopped up recently. The other ones are all trailing, and they way outgrow this over and over again. I constantly chop and then make more propagations. The problem here is that we're limited to that like 10 or 12 centimeter pot size, so I can't really size up my plants in there. The goal is to keep it continuously small but kind of lush, but I like the trailing element. Now this was just reset maybe 4 days ago. So I took all of the existing propagations out, I potted them all up, I gave them all to Tim. So this is the new version, a new setup, so it's looking fairly empty at the moment, but we're going through a new cycle of growing, right? That's okay. And then we've got a little vase over here as well with some more propagations of the Subpenata, some of my Syngoniums and so on. Just kind of nice, you know, it's a vase, better than having flowers in there that last you a couple of days or so. They all come with nodes, so they're all actually propagating. So I'm propagating them and creating a nice display in this vase at the same time. Win-win. But not much more to say about this. I'll bring you a bit closer and then we go into the office. You can see they're just hanging there in water. Yeah. Alright, so I can put that Syngonium cutting that we found in the garden. I'll just chuck that in there. Done. That's how easy it is. Alrighty. You saw a little sneak peek in the mirror? Oh my god, it is so dark everywhere. What's happening? Okay. Oh, and here's the baby again. Hello, Jungle Tiger. He's going back to work. Okay, this is like the big room. This is like my main room. This is my office with my big wall of velvet philodendron. And then we've got a south-facing window here. Over here is where all the magic happens, where all of my videos come from. And here's my little baby. Are you working? Now this room is actually really small, so let me bring you a bit closer first and then maybe I'll take out some standouts, I don't know. We'll see how we go. Anyway, so this is my Sodiroy. I have recently chopped it up in many bits and it's now reshooting. You can see the reshoots have much more silver in them than the older leaves. So yeah, that's good. New leaf coming here, happy days. This is my big Verrucosum. Or actually, more like this. This is my big Verrucosum. Newest leaf is looking absolutely amazing. I made a big tear in the leaf with the moss pole of the Sodiroy. Very unhappy. I fixed it with some masking tape so that the rib doesn't get bigger. Maybe I should just Sharpie it in so it's dark, huh? But this was the most beautiful leaf it has ever grown. Look at this sheen. Look at the veining. Look at the red backs, and it is now pushing out a new leaf. We are so busy in here, it's hard to get this plant to push out leaves and not rub against something and so on, but it is what it is. And here we've got my Florida Beauty and it's looking very beautiful. Look at this, so nice. I think this is the newest leaf over here, showing a little bit more green, which is absolutely, whoop, can I see? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I actually really enjoy the green and it obviously makes the plant grow. But very happy with this plant. Over here at the top we've got my Patriciae. Newest leaf over here suffered some severe mechanical damage as it unfurls, so it's not going to be perfect, but I'm still going to really like it, I can tell you that. The cabinet is so overgrown by now, look, you can hardly see the cabinet. Let's go in there soon. Let's go into the cabinet in a sec, it's messy. Next to that we've got my big Glorious, and it's finally throwing out some glorious leaves again, like this one over here, obviously this one over here, this big one over here, and It's growing nicely. Sometimes I use chopsticks to show the plant where it should grow. It was going off the pole a little bit, so I'm kind of just saying, hey, no further than this, yeah? So very happy with the recovery of the Glorious. There's actually a full video coming on it. Down here we've got my El Choco, the mature version, right? You can also see I cannot avoid yellow edges on any of my leaves, right? That is just normal. That also happens to me. Now, unfortunately, it aborted the last leaf, but a big cutter fill coming, so all good. Down here we've got my Milano, just went through a chop and extend. These are like this super beautiful leaf. Look at how beautiful this leaf is. It also aborted a new leaf over here. You can see that's where it was, but the cutter fill is working on the next one. So let's hope for something good, yeah? So I really enjoy. Why are you doing this? I really enjoyed this plant until it didn't enjoy me back anymore. Oh well. Let's talk about what I think happened there later. And then we've got my Splendid over here with a new leaf. Beautiful. I mean, all of the leaves are beautiful. They're here and growing by a cutter fill. Very, very nice, right? And in the corner over here we've got my Majestic. I'm thinking I'm getting rid of the Majestic and I might put the Billy Coysum here. Unfurling a new leaf here. But again, see how it spreads so far, like it always rubs against something else, right? So there's going to be some mechanical damage because, well, I can't give them all the space in the world. Yeah, so overall that's kind of my wall of velvets. Now I have two mother lights over here. These are the plant spectrums, two mounted on top of each other. I kind of like how unintrusive they look, but I need light to come from the front so that I can push my plants against the wall and still have the growth facing me. Hence the decision to go for them. And then my Dyson fan is on 24/7, so there's always airflow because I don't have much natural airflow in this room. I can open these windows, but there's no fly screens on it, so it's not ideal, and Brett can then also escape. So I only have these windows open when I'm in here as well and can supervise. Now against this south facing window are a few plants that are really, really hard to film. I might need to go from the outside. Alrighty, here I am. I've got you in crazy wide angle. Like, look. Honestly, I can touch this wall and this wall with just one step. Like, it is a tiny room. Anyway, on this wall, it's hard to film against this one. I try to actually film from the outside, but then you can also only see glare. This is a south-facing window, so the worst exposure. I get a little bit of afternoon sun coming through this side during summer, but during winter, no direct sun whatsoever. So it is a challenging window, but it is what it is. This is my second Verrucosum, and I'm also doing a video on this. I recently just heavily chopped it back because I do not want this to mature. I don't even know if you can see anything with all of this backlight. But I'm trying, guys. This is my Gigas. Not really maturing, but it is growing really lush. So at least that's something. This is my Titanium. It's a Verrucosum Serpens hybrid. My Monstera Escalado is looking really nice over here. Happy days. This is my Jose Bueno. It's looking really good. It has recovered from a severe root and stem rot issue, but it is thriving like never before now. So I'm really happy with that. Why only have two Verrucosums if you can have three? I'm trying to also grow one trailing. It happened. I finally figured out Alocasia Frydek. And guess what? Of course there's a full video coming on it, but this is one of my proudest moments at the moment. I know, we haven't tackled the IKEA greenhouse yet. We will get in there, but I'll probably just quickly pan. To be honest, I've really been avoiding going into that cabinet because every time I go there, I kind of bump into all of my plants around it and the grow light and everything just keeps falling. It is a little too overgrown and messy in here. I need to change something about this setup so that it is more convenient for me to look after the plants, right? Right now, I avoid going in there because I just hate how messy and how tight tight and narrow everything is and how inaccessible it is, if that makes sense. So I'm actually not looking after my plants in there enough. I'm a convenience person. It's weird. I don't mind going out of my way to care for my plants, but at the same time it needs to be convenient and it needs to be comfortable for me. And this is not comfortable for me. I like putting in the hard work, but I don't like when it gets uncomfortable, and I just don't like mess. I can't deal with this. So there will be a video where we need to redo the greenhouse. Also some of outgrowing the cabinet. Some need a little bit of help and so on. I also just gave away a plant, so I have a bit of room I need to rearrange and so on. So something needs to happen in there, and I'm going to take you along. But before we have a look at the greenhouse, just wanted to quickly address a general issue in this room. Over the last 2 months, I haven't been super thorough with my plant care, let's say. First, actually it all started when I went to Fiji. When I came back from Fiji and I was only there for 5 days, I actually noticed a huge spider mite infestation in this room. Now, of course, the spider mites would have already been here before I went to Fiji, but it wasn't an issue that I actually noticed. Like, it wasn't strong enough for me to walk around and notice that, hey, this plant looks a little bit unhealthy. What's going on with this? I think you can probably best see it with the Milano over here. That's where I noticed it. So when I came back, and it was just 5 days in Fiji, but those 5 days, the spider mites really like doubled, tripled, whatever. So I really noticed it when I came back from Fiji, but it was slightly too late to avoid visual damage, right? Because I mean, I noticed it because of the visual damage. So fair enough, I treated it. I actually started using Killamite, which seems to have worked really well, but obviously I can't reverse the damage. I then also had my friend from Germany over for 5 weeks, and while I was here, somewhat every day, I wasn't really, I didn't even film a video or edit videos and so on, right? We were always at the beach, we spent a bit of time at Tim's place as well, hanging out over there and so on, right? So I wasn't home as much as I normally am, and my plants heavily rely on me being here all the time and observing them and acting accordingly. I don't have a watering day where I'm like, every Saturday I water. I just walk around and water as I notice. But if I'm not here, and I have less time to notice, then it's a little bit harder for me to also consistently keep on top of things. And plus we also traveled a little bit, right? We went to Central Coast for a few days, we went to Kangaroo Valley for a few days, I also went to Brisbane and Melbourne and so on. So overall, I feel like over the last 2.5 months, I haven't been home as much as I usually am. And as part of that, I'm not feeling as connected to my plants as I usually am, or I'm not as in tune with my plants and what they need at any given time. So I think that's why some of these plants have suffered a little bit. I think with the El Choco and the Milano, I mean, it's too much of a coincidence for both of these plants that are right next to each other to also abort their latest leaf at the same time. So I think I might have actually gone a little bit overboard with watering, right? Because I would have been like, well, I'm gonna be gone for the next 3 days. This plant doesn't need water just yet, but I know it will need water over the next 3 days. Let's just water it now. So I might have watered a little bit too much, or watered too much after a period of drying out for too long. I didn't get on top of the spider mites quickly enough. Most likely it's a combination of all of it, right? I wasn't here, so if I'm not here, I don't air out the room all too often. Yes, the fan is still on, but you know, plants also appreciate a bit of fresh air coming through rather than just stale air being circulated. And on top of that, I think it was also a little bit too hot. I think right now in this room, hang on, that's the cabinet, isn't it? Right now in this room it is 26 degrees and 65% humidity. And that is low humidity for this room. I've seen it 70, 75, 80, 85% in here because I also have so many plants and it's really rainy in Sydney. I've seen the temperatures go up to 27, 28. I don't have air conditioning in this room either. And I think for some of these velvets, specifically my Vero for example, this might actually be a little bit too warm. All I'm saying is like, there's not like this one thing that I think that went wrong. I think it's like a combination of everything, and the overarching theme is that I just kind of had other priorities. And that is also normal, right? Like, plants take up a lot of time, and I make plants my priority because it is also my job on top of being my passion and my hobby, right? So I have no excuse to not make them my priority. But I can understand that somebody who doesn't do this for a living might not prioritize their plants over life. And as a result of that, you also have to just lower your expectations. You can't expect everything to thrive to its full potential, be amazing, be perfect, if you aren't making it your priority. Even if you make it your priority, your plants will probably never be perfect. They're plants. That's kind of, we appreciate the imperfections, let's say. But yeah, bottom line, I also have imperfections. Things go wrong over here. I also have setbacks, even after 5 or 6 years of growing these plants and spending so much time with them. I also sometimes drop the ball, and that's also fine. And we'll move on because they're plants and they're gonna keep growing and they're gonna look beautiful again one day. I mean, they already look beautiful even in the suffering state. I know I'm bitching and moaning on a high level, but obviously, as I mentioned, it's my hobby, passion, and my job. So, there's less excuses for me to drop the ball on that, right? Anyway, let's look at this cabinet then. Alrighty, I don't even know how to get in there. And I'm worried about opening this second door and smashing this Fertiliser leaf. Okay. Let's keep it at that maybe. Okay, one of the Spiritus Sanctis are gone. I used to have 3, now I have 2. This is my Spiritus Sancti number 1, Spiritus Sancti number 2. My little Veitchii over here. I can probably zoom in a little more. This is a batik, the only one that's left of my Odora batik from a corn. The mother plant died. A little variegated anthurium, a villa. Need to put it on screen, really enjoying that. This is my Delta Force. It's gonna be such a stunner, but probably has to move out of this cabinet very soon. It's gonna overgrow it. My Serpents, similar story. I think it's gonna overgrow the cabinet really soon. Oh well, could be worse, right? There's nice red backs and hairy petioles. Spider mites? No, hopefully not. My variegated Milano is actually looking quite nice. I posted it the other day. You guys did not enjoy this, and I get it. The variegation can look a little bit sick, but I still like it at the moment. Then I've got my, what have I done here? Then I've got my Oblique over here, also looking nice. Oh my god, another Verrucosum, because I don't have enough already. Oh, and the Milano. Oh, actually bringing the variegation back over here. This is a Bilinum, which is a hybrid of Bellicosum and Pastosinum, I think. Yep, also growing kind of nicely. And Jade Pothos. Now, pretty much all of these plants will have their own plant spotlight made, because when I purchase new plants, I make full videos on them, and so there's gonna be in-depth videos about all of these plants coming. So let's wait for that. I just noticed I really don't like narrow spaces, quite clearly. Okay, we are done in this office. It's also so warm here. Let's get out of this office, and there's one more room I want to show you with all of my beautiful anthuriums. So let's head upstairs. Here we are, last room of the house, the bedroom. You've seen this shelf setup, but it's now on the opposite wall to where it used to be. And again, I've got the Mother Life Spectrum over here coming from the front, right? That's my main thing. I want the light exposure to come from the front so that all of the leaves are facing forward. The display side, right? If I would have the light coming from above, most of the leaves would be facing up. Plus, these plants over here would be stealing the lights from the plants down there. So realistically, I would need a light on each shelf. So instead, I just have one vertical light in front of it, and it is kind of somewhat unintrusive. Let me see what the light looks like when I turn it off. Let me turn my filming light off too. Did you see? Oh my god, what the hell? It is the middle of the day. It is literally pitch black in here. The camera is doing its best to get me a little bit of light in here, but it is so dark outside with the storm rolling in. Did you hear that? That was thunder. Exciting. Okay, I think I need to turn the light back on. But obviously it's not going to show on camera. It is so dark in here. So I could not read a book in here right now. It's too dark. meaning that these plants would absolutely not be growing if it wasn't for the grow light. We are about 3 meters away from a south-facing window, so you couldn't possibly ask for less light. I think the only way to get less light in this room would be to not have windows. Alrighty, so these are my anthuriums, and to be honest, I feel like I've spoken too much about anthuriums recently because they're the ones that caused the whole fungus net infestation, which, by the way, I'm happy to tell you that they're still non-existent. I kept using the drops that I recommended in the video, the Tenlin drops, and I haven't seen any, which is really good. So I've spoken a lot about them. They're not all thriving to their full potential. I'll take you a bit closer in a sec, but let me maybe point out a couple of standouts, the ones that I actually really like at the moment. This one, why don't I put this light a little bit further back? This is my luxuriance. Look at this new leaf coming out over here. It's just really nice and orange, has a nice structure. You can really see it has large lobes already, so I reckon this is going to increase to be a really large leaf, and it is already growing its first inflow. Luxuriance has very interesting features that none of my other plants have, right? I mean, you can see I really like velvet, dark, veiny anthuriums. So definitely keen to collect some pollen over here and see if I can make some nice hybrids, because it would be a nice feature to include in a hybrid, right? Like that sort of texture of the leaf. My queen, by the way, over here, this is one nice leaf, but it is kind of like getting really marked quickly, but there is a new leaf coming here. Finally, it hasn't grown in so long. Other one I really want to show you is this one. It is my Forgetii magnificum crossed with a queen. A hybrid I made with a friend. It just looks really nice, I think. Nice sheen, nice dark leaves. Easy grower. Down here I'm not going to take it out because it's so hard to take them out without ripping them every time, without a fail. Every time I take these anthuriums out to water them or to do anything with them, I end up ripping at least 2 leaves. I don't know what it is. I just can't get it right quite clearly. Oopsie, let's do that. But this one, the nice dark one over here, is a papillum hybrid. Love it. I actually pollinated that with itself because I wanted to keep it as dark as possible. And these berries are slowly coming good. So I'm really excited. And guess what? I filmed the whole thing for you. Well, also for me, it's my job. Should we maybe start from the top? At the top over here, first of all, we've got my Strapianthurium vitarifolium. It is actually hating this spot. It is not growing and deteriorating, but I like how it covers the side of the shelf. I just don't have a spot for it at the moment, but that definitely has to change. I'm looking for a spot for this plant. Yeah, anyway, we'll find out. For here, I've got my VGI. Excuse me, what the hell is going on with you? I just can't get this plant to work. And then this is the one I showed you earlier, the hybrid of my queen with a magnificum Forgetii. I think this one was actually the newest leaf. This one's a crystallinum hybrid. I really like this shape and veining. This is another one of my crazy rubbish. This is... Holy shit, I get so confused between all of them. They all look the same. This is also crazy rubbish, actually, yeah, that's also crazy rubbish. And then that is the luxuriance I showed you, the queen over here with a new mighty leaf unfurling, finally, thank you. A Clarinervium hybrid doing fairly little. Another crazy rubbish because, well, I have a lot of crazy rubbish, but it is a beautiful one. This is a Magnificum hybrid. And this is another one of the Varroquianum Forgetii Magnificum hybrid, same as the one at the top. And this one had thrips. It's a Serenoi. I think I finally said it right. And then this one over here is the Puppy X Dressleri, I think. So pretty and dark. Look how incredibly dark, almost bluish these leaves are. So hence the attempt to make the hybrids. By the way, it is 24 degrees and 80% humidity in here now, despite having the window open. Well, no, because I'm having the window open. Well, if it's like 80% humidity outside and I have the window open, it's going to be 80% in here as well. The anthuriums are loving it, but it has been a little bit too warm for their liking in here. I believe they seem to like spring and autumn better than they actually like the middle of summer. That was the houseplant tour. I always look forward to filming them because I take such great pride in my house and I love rearranging and I love living here. I really enjoy being here. I love working from here, you know. So I also enjoy sharing it with you. I was not happy with the lighting situation today and I also filmed it all by myself. I didn't have Tim to help me today, so I hope the end result is a little bit better than what I've seen on the viewfinder so far. I'm just really trying to capture the way that it actually feels living here, but it is really hard actually with the camera. The camera just does not capture real life the way that real life happens, you know, and the camera just really doesn't capture light in the way that it does. Anyway, the camera also can just capture one moment in time, right? Like, whereas for me it's a dynamic experience living here. So I hope it's still a good video, but I will probably never match what I had in mind for this video, but so be it. I would really love to do another full tour, maybe next time with a cameraman, in maybe 2 months time, just before things go south. And then we can see the full extent of the growth over the growing season and we can really see how much all of these plants have grown. And then we also have some sort of benchmark to see how and if they're declining over the cooler seasons. I'm lucky right now because this is the growing season, so of course things are growing, but I also know that last year winter I felt like such a failure about my plants and I felt like everything is going downhill. I felt really bad about, well, me as a plant parent, but also me as a business owner that's focused on plants. If all of my plants are deteriorating faster, that they can regrow and so on. So I know that I'll also go through this cycle of, you know, feeling a little bit meh about the hobby as a result of winter, and that is normal. I really feel for the people that are currently going through the colder season because it's just not the nicest feeling, but just wanted to ensure you that it is normal and that it's not actually anything about you personally, and no, you're not a bad plant parent. If you watched all the way, leave a little house emoji in the comment section and let me know what was your favorite plant in my house and garden and greenhouse. What was the standout for you? Please also make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Check if you're subscribed already. And if you are not, then please hit that button as well as the bell notification button. Subscribing is for free. All of my content is for free, but it really means the world to me if you do subscribe and check out my content. Alright, see you in my next video and happy growing!